Hello, classmates. In this week's assignment, I will present to the class why I chose to study wildlife management. I've been interested in nature in general since I was probably 10 years old. My parents never took much interest in many outdoor activities, such as camping, hiking, hunting, or fishing, but I did have an uncle that used to take me fishing, and I also spent many years in the Boy Scouts of America. I'll never forget my first camping trip with the group. It was mid-October in New England, and the weather was simply fantastic. I still have a vivid memory of waking up on a Saturday morning to a thick layer of frost on everything. The trees were red, orange, and yellow and sparkling as the early morning sun hit frosted tree limbs and leaves. I could see my breath, and the chill actually felt great. We got the fire going and cooked breakfast, which at that time was something completely new for me, and my patrol spent the day in the woods doing a number of tasks for learning purposes, such as fire starting, campcraft, learning to use an axe, and the like. During the day, we went to a presentation on raptors. I don't remember specifically who the representative was, but he had an owl with him that had been injured, and he discussed the biology of owls, their habitat, prey, and etc. And I was hooked from there. Just a quick side note, the picture you've been looking at is actually my son James taken on his first upland game hunting trip about 2 years ago. I put that up there just because I'm kind of proud of him. I chose to study arboriculture and park management for college and later urban forestry at the University of Massachusetts Amherst from 1990 to 1994. I enjoyed my time studying and took a couple of courses in wildlife and fisheries biology while I was there. I remember the instructors at UMass were very passionate about their fields. As I stated in my introductory forum post last week, I never was able to break into the field of forestry professionally and spent some time doing tree work and ended up in the transportation and logistics management fields, both militarily and in the civilian work experience. I never got away from hiking, canoeing, and fishing, and in fact, my son has been hiking, ice fishing, and camping with my wife and I since day one. So I'll present to you a few pictures of our excursions over the years. This first one is a picture of me on top of Mount Pierce a couple of years ago. In the background, you can see Mount Eisenhower is the next peak back, and then Mount Washington behind that in New Hampshire. That's all part of the presidential range. This is me on the trail. That's the look I give my wife after she stopped me about 4 times for pictures when we're climbing upward. This is a view from Mount Eisenhower on the presidential trail, and behind it is Mount Washington. That's the highest peak in New England. This is my son, 13 years old, and this picture was taken last summer. That is also on Mount Pierce. And this is one of our fishing trips. My son with a nice largemouth bass he got here in Massachusetts. Canoeing trip from a few years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago. That's at Lake Tarleton State Park. I love canoeing up there. That lake's actually 90 feet deep in the middle. It holds lake trout. Beautiful place. There's actually only one camp on that entire lake, so it really is kind of being out there by yourself when you're on Lake Tarleton. That's my wife on one of our canoeing excursions here in Massachusetts. And there's my son with his first rainbow trout taken through the ice. That picture's probably 4 years old. That was right on the Canadian border up in New Hampshire. And here he is with a nice largemouth bass on one of our ice fishing trips. That was taken right here in town, about 2 miles from my house. This is last winter. That's a nice eastern chain pickerel he caught. Actually, that's the same lake, about a mile or so from my house. And my wife with a largemouth. This was actually taken only about a week ago. It's my wife's first time out hunting small game with my son and I. And this is James with his, that's actually his first game he ever took. That was 2 years ago, his first pheasant he got. And this was actually only taken a couple weeks ago as well, a squirrel that he took. Okay, so I have to admit my hunting experience is quite limited, as I've only been hunting for about 2 years. I attribute my newfound affinity to hunting to my son, actually. He's currently 13, but only a few years ago he asked me if we could ever go hunting. It was something I had always considered, but never really got around to. But what more excuse could I find to not go hunting now that my son asked? So I signed up for a hunter education course in Raymond, New Hampshire in 2012. It was held over a number of evenings, and the field day was on the weekend. I remember there were 7 instructors that volunteered their time to teach new hunters that course, and I was amazed at their passion for hunting and wildlife management. It introduced me to a very tight-knit community that enjoys self-reliance, wildlife, and nature in general. Of all the experiences I've had outdoors, I have to say that hunting has been the most invigorating for me. This leads me to my final thoughts on why I decided on a course in wildlife management. As I said, I never lost my love for nature and time in the outdoors. Years of hiking and passion for fishing has now migrated to include hunting, and I respect that wildlife needs to be studied in order to provide ample hunting opportunities for all Americans that choose to take part in the self-reliance associated with harvesting game. As this is my last course towards my degree in transportation and logistics, I thought I would take advantage of an elective to learn more about this interest. And I'm also in hopes that some of the information that I learned could be applied in conversations I have with others when discussing why, as a family, we have chosen to hunt. And maybe some more substantive conversations will allow others to understand and possibly aspire to enjoy nature as well. Thanks for listening to my presentation. It's not often that I get a chance to have a captive audience to show off pictures of my family, so I appreciate you sitting through that. Last note for this assignment is that all the photographs in this presentation are from my personal collection, with the exception of slide 3, and those images were taken from the Stockbridge School of Agriculture website. Thanks a lot. Look forward to seeing you in class.